Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We are going to be talking about the correlation between inflammation and the accelerated aging. This information is actually based on Dr. Jocker's article about inflammaging, which is kind of like a new word for the role of inflammation as we are aging and how it impacts us. If you have any questions, please feel free to text Dr. Justine at 647-987-9355. I wanted to welcome Dr. Justine and Dr. Udani here with us today. Dr. Justine is here, our leader at Justine Blainey Wellness Center, a very passionate leader and advocate for health. And Dr. Udani is our naturopathic doctor here at Justine Blainey Wellness Center. She has many special interests that she specializes in, including stress and skin conditions, chronic pain, and digestion. She'll always talk to you about digestion. Please help me welcome both of them.
So we're talking about inflammaging. Yeah, that's a new word. We're talking about how does this inflammation affect how we age?
Mhm. Yes, what a word. I love that because it combines aging and inflammation, and because inflammation is a big part of aging. And when I think about inflammation, this is not the inflammation where we have a sprained ankle and it has swelling and redness. This is more that chronic low grade inflammation. So when it comes to that, I like to think about it as like an inflammation bucket. Okay, so with stress, with diet, with lifestyle, this inflammation bucket, if you make the wrong decisions, right, it tends to get bigger and bigger. So let's say you are not sleeping that well, or you're not eating the best food, or you're just faced with lots of stress. This inflammation bucket gets bigger and bigger, and over time it'll spill over, and this can cause inflammation related diseases. Even aging can accelerate aging, and it's almost like the balance is tipped now towards more inflammation, whereas we want to tip it more towards anti-inflammation. Okay, so in adding things that help with reducing inflammation, things like proper nutrition, proper adaptive exercise, better sleep, and so this will tip the scale back more into anti-inflammation, which is what we want to do to slow down that aging process. So what is inflammaging? So this is actually a combination, right, of inflammation and aging. And when we have too much inflammation going on in our bodies have more wear and tear. Okay, so this is an easiest example is when you have something like arthritis, there's a lot of inflammation in the joints. And over time, that can cause a lot of wear and tear. And sometimes this is not as subtle, this is not as obvious to a lot of us. Inflammation in our kidneys or in our digestion, even our lungs might not be very obvious. It might, and so sometimes it could be a little cough or feeling a little bloated here and there, but this can still be a signs and symptoms of inflammation. And when you have too much of this going on, this will really speed up your aging process and can increase your risk of getting more of those age-related diseases like diabetes, Alzheimer's, dementia, and even can cause skin aging too. And so one of the worst things that inflammation can cause is it can zombify your cells. So what does this mean? So your cells are usually very functioning really healthy, right? They're working as a team. They're part of a team, a group. They're communicating with each other. They're talking. They're exchanging materials with each other. But when there's too much inflammation going on, these cells kind of become like zombies. So they don't respond. They don't grow. They don't interact with the environment like they should be. And over time, they tend to basically release even more inflammation because they're not working the way they should be. And over time, this can even cause more and more cells to become this way, and it stops your whole stem cells from being produced. So stem cells are like these brand new cells that can produce many different types of cells. But when we have too much of these lifestyle stresses, our diet isn't that great, our sleep isn't that great, we're not working out or exercising, we have too many toxins in our bodies, more and more of our normal cells become zombie cells. Okay, and this is too much when there's a lot of inflammation happening in the body.
Thank you, Dr. Udani. And I know that when I think of swelling, I think of that I'm gonna see swelling, like it's gonna go red, it's gonna go fat, it's gonna go like a swollen ankle or knee. And I'm actually always gonna feel kind of like pain. I think that's what I think of swelling. So when we mix that inflammation with aging, we can have a lot of areas that don't require pain. For example, low energy or affecting our sleep or affecting brain fog or digestion. It can affect our moods or our memory. Waking. These are not like waking doesn't hurt as it's happening. So we have to realize that this inflammation affects way beyond just aches, pains, muscle damage. And it can affect us just feeling old, and we hear that I'm getting old. Well, we have to remember, if you're saying it, you're feeling it, that is really is time you did something about it. And ideally, that would have actually been a lot sooner. The best action plan is take care of a concern and work on prevention rather than waiting until we have some of these signs happening. Now, this inflammation, it affects all parts of your body. That's why it can affect your thinking and your memory. So it does affect your brain. It does affect your strength. It does affect how your heart function or how you breathe. It's not just wrinkly skin. It is way more that affecting how we eliminate toxins through the digestive system and bladder. So when we're looking at inflammation, so crucial. That's why we have so many talks on this topic. So one of the number one ways when we're dealing with inflammation is to deal with nutrition. And yes, most people know don't eat the sugary candies and food additives and cupcakes, preservatives, or sandwich meats. That's what I grew up on. Bologna and white bread sandwiches. We didn't know. But even things like gluten, like I grew up with mac and cheese and spaghetti, right? And that would be a normal part. Even if I went to a restaurant, I would think of like fettuccine, which would be just white noodles. So let's look at talking to a naturopath. How do you change it to zucchini noodles? How do you change it to sprouted? Noodles. There are lots of mushroom noodles, ways to have healthy meats. And really, when we're craving all of these sweet areas or this junk food, that means because we don't have a plan. We need a coach. And that's why we talk to a naturopath, because it's not even just knowing what to do, it's how to put it in place, really. And then actually, like, how do you have a plan and then keep the plan up? So, as we go through this information, I recommend just starting with one new change a week so that you can keep it up. Maybe that first change isn't, getting rid of gluten in your diet. That first change is just getting rid of candy, replacing candy with maybe frozen grapes, or frozen berries, just something that you can kind of crunch on, but is sweet. So, looking how you can make small changes instead of pop, maybe you're going to look at a keto powder for your water or lemon in water, with a little bit of maple syrup so you still have that sweetness. So, looking at ways that you could have sparkly water instead of sparkly pop. So if you love that fizz, so maybe having that coach to start to just make small swaps, one change a week versus so many that you get overwhelmed and then we quit.
Mhm. Absolutely. Like that one little change every day or every once a week equals to 52 different habits, right? Over the year. So don't underestimate the power of just making that one small change. And especially if you are dealing with like sugar cravings, and like Dr. Justine mentioned, finding those healthier alternatives for sweets. And this used to be, to be honest, this used to be me, where I used to have a lot of really bad, insane cravings for sweets and sugar. Like every time I would be finishing school or work, I'd come home and I'd go straight for the cookies. And I had like 4 or 5 cookies in one go. And afterwards I would start to feel really bad. Like I would get bloated. But in the moment, it felt like I really needed it. So that sugar cravings can be a big sign of blood sugar imbalances, and some of these can come because of that inflammation. So sugar is a big cause of inflammation when you have too much of that. And as you know, sometimes this can be, you know, you have weight gain, especially in the belly area. That could be a sign of blood sugar imbalance. Craving lots of sweets even after meals. So my grandma used to do this all the time. Every time she eat a meal, she'd be like, I need something sweet to finish off the meal. Or we'd always, when we were growing up, would have ice cream right after a meal. And now I realize like how, you know, not very healthy that was, because you're already eating all this you know, carbohydrates, and now you're filling up with more sugar. So obviously we all of us grew up with some of these habits, but now it's important to be aware of these habits and maybe fine tune them to make them healthier. And you know, when you have too much blood sugar, obviously this can cause things like diabetes and aging, acne, skin issues, trouble with weight, like I mentioned, and lots of hormonal effects as well. So managing your blood sugar can go a really, really long way to managing that inflammation. Inflammaging is also caused by leaky gut syndrome. So this is something I talk a lot in with my patients, because our gut is a very important part of our overall health. You know, this is where all of our nutrients get absorbed, all of our food is digested. There's a big immune system right behind the gut, kind of defending and protecting us against harmful bacteria, viruses, and parasites. And when this is not working well, what can happen is you can get more of a leaky gut. So our gut is actually very, very gentle when you think about it. Our skin is 7 cell layers thick, whereas our gut is only 1 cell layer thick. Okay, so you're comparing cardboard to tissue paper almost. So it's very easy to be opened up and teared and damaged. And this is something that can happen a lot when it comes to inflammation. Is this leaky gut syndrome. And you know, this is where there, think of it almost like there's holes in the gut lining, okay, that's causing a lot of bacteria, a lot of undigested food particles like gluten, for example, to come through. And our immune system just kind of goes into overdrive because it's not used to seeing all of these things. So then it starts to attack the bacteria, the viruses, or the byproducts, and then that causes even more damage. And what happens is now all of this gets spilled over into the blood and can be carried in your bloodstream all throughout your body. So this can even go to your brain, to your joints, and you might not even know that this is happening. So this is why it's really important to get this checked up, because over time, this can cause a lot of issues like sinus issues, acne, brain fog, joint pain, and kidney issues, functional urination. But you might have had this for years, you know? So this is where prevention is key to figure out, all right, there is pain happening, but you weren't able to, it wasn't very obvious, you know? And the gut level. And that's why making sure if you have a leaky gut syndrome, getting that checked up is really important, because this will really help down the road to prevent all of these the whole body issues that can be happening. And some of the symptoms that I see in my patients is bloating. That's one of the big ones. Even if you eat any kind of food, you get intense bloating. That's a big sign there could be a leaky gut syndrome. Diarrhea or constipation, changes in your bowel habits can also signify leaky gut, and even food sensitivities. So I do quite a bit of food sensitivity testing to make sure what kind of foods could be inflammatory for you, because you are unique and your food sensitivities are unique to you as well. So it's important to get that tested too, to see how we can fix up the gut.
Thank you, Dr. Udani. And that's been me. I lived my whole life with allergies and food sensitivities, and finding out what I can eat, what I can't eat, and even just the right combinations. For example, I love broccoli, but I can't eat it raw. So looking at how to find those healthy foods and in the way that you can eat it. For example, certain healthy foods, I know I need to eat it with avocado, so I have a healthy fat with it so that I can digest it properly. And that's where a naturopath can try and help you with those crucial combinations. We do know that with inflammation, it is affected by our sleep. If we don't get a good quality sleep, we just don't recover well. You know, and you can't say, I'm going to catch up on the weekends. That does not work. For me, though, you know, I can do the napping thing. You know, I love naps. My kids hate it. But I can make sure I can get that 20-minute midday nap, and then I can function a lot longer. And I tend to need less sleep in the middle of the night, because I'm getting that 20-minute sort of siesta, that sort of Mediterranean siesta. But we need that quality sleep. And so we have numerous talks on that topic. And please visit a lot of our other talks focused, an hour just on how to get that quality sleep. Now, when we deal with EMFs, there's a lot of controversy with 5G, 4G, EMFs. I do have a sticker on my phone to try and help little parts near our main servers, computers, in order to try and reduce EMFs. The pardon me, the effect of EMF is not always obvious. Pardon me. So it's very important to double check that. You may not even realize how much EMS or where you live is being affected, not just your household, but by the surrounding households. Looking at the pollution in your home, and that means also from your water, from your showers, pardon me, and then from your foods. Starting to read even just one time every week when we go grocery shopping, reading the ingredients. And if there are things we can't spell or can't pronounce, likely that's a food we want to avoid or swap with something healthier. There's just so many things where it can be overwhelming. For example, trying to reduce foods that come in a package, or foods that come in a can, because there has to be a preservative for them to last a long time. Anything that doesn't go bad, you have to ask yourself, why doesn't it go bad? And is that product something that I want in my body? All of this affects your homeostasis. That's your body balance. And many people are more affected than others, or just that one thing doesn't bug us, but the accumulation of all of these toxins all together does bother us. And so I know when I go to certain cities, for example, or on holidays, if it's just because of the grasses or the seaweed, if I'm by the ocean, or the pollution will affect my breathing, and I'll also get rashes on my stomach. So we do have to be ultra aware of, also it doesn't make me feel tired or sick, but I start to see other signs that are not, for example, forms of pain that can affect aging and show that our body is struggling with that homeostasis. Now, when we go into number 6, we're looking at different types of infections. And I know Dr. Udani is going to talk about this, but mold really, really affects me. And yet it doesn't affect my husband. So we had an example of, we had a hole in our roof. So the shingles was being, had pulled off, and we didn't realize and didn't address it soon enough. So we ended up with mold in our roof right before Christmas. And for me, it just shut me right down, physically exhausted, every part of my body aching, and I had to move out of the house. And yet my husband could function fully, able to work fully, able to help with all the workmen to come in and out, get all the insulation out, and redo our inside of our house to get rid of the mold, and then, of course, redo the roof. So we have to realize that that still didn't mean it was healthy for him. Just because he didn't have any symptoms and I didn't mean we wanted to keep the mold there. And to give you another example, is sometimes I see a lot of people with yeast infections or candida infections, and they don't have the full white tongue, and all of the symptoms, but they're lethargic. They don't digest their food properly. And this is why it can be tough. Like, it can really be tough because there's just so many toxins out there. And it's tough if you don't have like a direct symptom, or a symptom that happens like immediately, within an hour, you kind of know, or even the same day. But what if it builds up over years? It's hard to figure out. Example for me is, I know Tide detergent. I don't do well with Tide. I get a rash on my stomach. I do not do well. I need a natural cleaner for my clothes. And sometimes I don't even know that that's happened. Different cleaners, when you dry cleaners, and sometimes I'm fine and sometimes I'm not. And I know they changed the product, and it just affected how I could breathe when I wore that shirt or pants that came from the dry cleaners. So just being aware that everybody's different. It is an accumulation of concerns. And this is why you see a naturopath to help you kind of pinpoint where your concerns are and then how to address them specifically.
Mhm. I love that, Dr. Justine. Like, what you said about the accumulation. I think that's the big thing is all of these little things will build up over time. And that's when, like, it can become more obvious. So I call these infections stealth infections because they can be very stealthy. Like they can just kind of be stuck in your body for years at a time. And then you go through a very stressful period and it all just kind of comes out the surface. And mold and yeast, for example, especially if you live in an older home or in a basement, you can be more likely to be exposed to mold. Even if you have those allergy symptoms that come and go in the springtime, fall time, that could be because of potentially mold making it worse, like sinus issues. Lyme disease is a huge, super complex. So it's very complex condition that's sometimes even hard to get tested because it's so stealthy. The bacteria that produces it just doesn't, it's not very tested. It doesn't test that well. So you can have it for years at a time with all of these seemingly random issues like joint pain, mood issues, fibromyalgia, like lots of pain, you can't even get out of bed. And then this can be caused because of these infections. So this is something that I actually do a lot of research on, and I'm passionate about figuring out these infections. So if you are wanting more information, you can always talk to me. I'd love to explain things to you more in detail about this too.
I
And
used to give an example, Dr. Udani, that people may not realize. One of the challenges with my mom with her hair was a strep infection, and I know a lot of times people think it's strep, like they think see of a sore throat, and yet it can affect your skin as well and your hair and hair loss. So hair loss. Can be a sign of significant stress happening in your body, and that kind of women might notice it more often. They're brushing their hair and there's just so much coming out of the brush, or when after showering and you can see the hair on your hand, you have a challenge going on, and you do want to see your naturopath, see where that stressor is and how to address it, because it's part of this inflammation concern. I know we think of hair losses like as you get older you're going to thin your hair, but these are because we're maybe not addressing those toxins early enough.
100% totally. Like there's been had another patient come in that had a full-on yeast infection on their head scalp that was causing hair loss. So there could be a lot of these infections and stresses that can be causing all of these things, and even like changing your nails too, that could be an infection by itself. And sometimes oftentimes this can also be nutrient deficiencies. As we get older, we don't necessarily tend to eat as good because we're exposed to a lot of stress in the daily. We go for the takeout, and sometimes our digestion is also not very good with functioning. So that obviously makes you more prone to getting all these infections that can cause aging, and also nutrient deficiencies, right? And some of the most common nutrient deficiencies that we tend to experience is things like our vitamins and minerals. So that can also actually be caused by just not eating all the foods and vegetables that has them. So a lot of times we tend to be deficient in vitamin D. We don't get the vitamin B vitamins we need, omega 3s, zinc, glutathione is a really powerful antioxidant. So a lot of these can cause hair loss as well. When you're deficient in these vitamins, can cause skin issues and hair changes. So one of the nutrient deficiencies, vitamin D, is something that I always say get tested because we tend to be really, really on the low end, especially living in Canada, because, we have winter like 7 months of the year. So, we don't really go out, get the sun. So when we do have the summer and summer months, please go outside, get as much sun as you can, obviously safely, because you get that vitamin D. It's produced on the skin. You can of course supplement it as well, but if your digestion isn't working well, you might not be getting it all in. So being more active outdoors is really important. And these are some of the signs that you might need more vitamin D. This can be things like you're just more increased sensitivity to pain, or you have more you're more sensitive to anxiety and depression. You have more hair loss. That's another sign of low vitamin D as well. High blood pressure, increased risk of fractures, and even poor sleep quality. Muscle weakness can also be from low vitamin D, and frequent illnesses, because vitamin D really helps boost your immune system for it to work well. So these are some signs. If you are experiencing these, don't ignore them. Get tested. That way you can figure out what are you deficient in. And speaking of that, B vitamins are another big energy vitamin. It's also really good for boosting your energy, detoxing. It's used up in your liver a lot too for detoxes, and it can help with your fatigue levels, any headaches. It can be really good for boosting your memory, reducing your pain. And there's a lot of things that can deplete your B vitamins because they're so used with so many things in the body. So things like smoking, using antacids, especially that's important for B12, because you need stomach acid to help us digest and absorb B12. So if you're using a lot of antacids for heartburn, we got to figure out what's causing that heartburn in the first place, so that way you're not depending on antacids as much, and because it can lead to a lot of these deficiencies. So when I think about omega-3s, we always
Sorry, I
hear.
just want to go right back just one more because Dr. Udani, go back one slide there. That vitamin B birth control pills, just super important because that does affect many families, many women. Alcohol usage. So just if those are two areas that are affecting you, then definitely get your vitamin B checked with your naturopath.
Absolutely. Thank you for pointing that out, Dr. Justine, because you're right, like so many vitamins and minerals are deficient, depleted when you're on birth control. And a lot of us are on it for years, so it can be depleted for so many years. And with alcohol, B vitamins are used to actually help detox alcohol out of our body. So I always say, if you have a night out, when you go to sleep, take some B vitamins, because that can help your liver function better too. So these are all great things to get tested as well. And so when it comes to omega-3s, this is obviously that comes from healthy fats, healthy fish, fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, herring. These are really good anti-inflammatory oils. Okay, so when you think about omega-3s, they're very good for reducing inflammation. Omega-6 are a little bit more, they're like the bad boys, we don't want too much of them. And you can get them from like more of the like soybean oil, canola oil, more of that vegetable oil have more omega-6 versus just fatty fish, and sometimes in olive oil, like the nuts and seeds have more omega-3s, and they're better. So why is this important? Obviously, we want more of these healthy fats because they help with lubricating our joints, reducing joint pain, overall risk of heart disease, cancers, and diabetes, things like that. But they also actually help with our cell membrane. So when I think of a cell membrane, I think of, like, imagine a cell is like your house, and the cell membrane is the brick that covers the outside. So we want the good bricks. So that's the omega-3s. Instead of the bad ones that are like crumbling all the time. So that's omega-6s. So the more of the good bricks you have, the stronger the house is, and more able it is to withstand stresses. Okay. So always think like something like that when are you thinking about having more omega-3s in your diet, because that can really help with reducing that aging. So one of the other nutrients that can be deficient when you're getting older, is zinc. So what are some symptoms of zinc deficiency? This is when you see those spots in your fingernails, those white spots, that could be a sign that you're low on zinc. Low energy, trouble with even tasting. So if you feel like your taste is off, that could be a zinc deficiency issue. Skin rashes, eczema, trouble with sleeping, even fertility. So infertility can be caused because of low nutrients overall, and zinc is one of these as well. Sometimes, and zinc is really important for immune function. So especially if you have sinus issues, you're constantly sick and you're wondering what's going on, there could be a zinc deficiency happening. And zinc can actually be tested through blood to figure out, do you need a supplement or not. And I always recommend to It's okay to do a good zinc in the fall, because that's the flu season, just so that you're protected from all of these infections and things like that. And you can always get more zinc from lots of seafood and avocado, pumpkin seeds. If you're a vegetarian, pumpkin seeds are a great source of zinc as well, and almonds as well. So what are some blood tests for inflammation? So this is where we want to see, like, how bad is your inflammation? How much of it, how much of your body is being affected by it? And these are some of the blood tests that I would order, or your family doctor could order for you to see like what's going on. So there's fasting insulin, there's hemoglobin A1C, C-reactive protein, erythrocyte sedimentation rate, homocysteine, ferritin, and red blood cell width. So I'm going to go into a little bit of detail about what these tests are. We also have a talk on all of these tests more in depth if you do want to talk about them. Take a look at that as well. So insulin resistance is basically when we eat too much sugar, too much chocolate, lots of fast food, takeout food, and we're eating lots and lots of this without the healthy fats and good protein. Our body just has a huge sugar dump into the body, and this increases your blood sugar like crazy. It will spike up really high, and our pancreas ends up producing insulin, which in response to this huge dump of sugar. So insulin, think of it like a key that opens the locks in your cells to for the sugar to come into the cell. So from the blood, it goes in the cell. But what happens over time is when we eat like this all the time, we're stressed all the time, this insulin, it doesn't work as well. So our pancreas needs to produce more and more and more insulin to kind of control the blood sugar. And this can cause insulin resistance because our cells just aren't responsive to insulin as much anymore. It just kind of ignores insulin. It's like, oh, I need more insulin. I can't open it just with this little much. So with too much insulin resistance, you have a higher risk of diabetes and higher risk of a lot of other things like cancer, aging, overall like high blood pressure. We call it the metabolic syndrome. If you heard that, it's the blood pressure, diabetes, and high cholesterol. So all of those things can be caused because of insulin resistance. So we want to get tested this by doing fasting insulin and HbA1c. Another one inflammation marker is called CRP. So this is a marker, it's like a protein. We check to see, is it too high? If it's elevated, that could let us know that there is a lot of inflammation going on, especially with a risk of diabetes, cancer, heart disease, Crohn's disease, that's an inflammatory condition of the digestive system, rheumatoid arthritis. So this is one that I do routinely. So if a patient comes in with saying, I feel inflamed, I feel tired, I'm forgetful, I have joint pain, digestive issues, then I would test this for them too, to see what's going on. And the third test is it's a really cool test, actually. It's called erythrocyte sedimentation rate. So this is where we actually watch how quickly your blood cells actually clump together in the test tube. And the faster they clump together, that could mean there's more inflammation going on, because your blood cells are actually supposed to be free flowing, not really clumping together. And that is a sign that there is inflammation going on. So this is where you might be feeling completely normal, completely okay, but you can have high levels of this inflammatory markers. And we want to look at that because that can let us know to be more preventative and to stop whatever is going on before the symptoms become more obvious. Serum ferritin, so this is a protein that stores iron in the body. So this is something that I actually talked a lot to my patients, is that you don't necessarily need a lot of iron. Yes, there are some cases where you do need iron, where when we tested, the iron gets low and we want to supplement. But we don't necessarily want to give your body too much iron either, because iron can be inflammatory itself. And this is where we want to check your ferritin levels. We want to check your iron levels. There's different iron panels that can run for you too, because we don't want too much of iron either, because iron can be inflammatory and can cause liver issues and infections and things like that. So if your ferritin levels are too high, that could mean that you have too much iron, or you might have inflammation, and your body's trying to hoard the iron so that it's not causing more inflammation. Okay, so for women, I always say, because some of us have really heavy periods, and we can be low in iron. Our ferritin level should be between um, 35 to 70 is the ferritin level, optimal level, I would say, for a lot of women. And the other test is the red blood cell width, which is a marker for health. So when our width of the cell is too high, that means our body's producing too much red blood cells too fast, and it's not having time for it to mature and become the normal smaller red blood cell. So that could be a sign that the body's like trying to produce too many red blood cells. There is some inflammation going on. There might be too much of bleeding or something that could be happening that we just don't know. And aging can sometimes increase this too, and some nutrient deficiencies can cause it as well. So there are so many different markers for a lab test that you could do to check to see how is your inflammation, what's going on. We can find specific numbers for you. That way you're not doing any guessing. So you can take the guesswork out of what's going on with your health. And these are comprehensive tests that I can order, as well as medical doctors can order too, to make sure, how is your nutrition doing? How is your vitamin D doing? How's your blood sugar doing? These are good things to get measured at least yearly. And I myself get it tested yearly too, because I want to kind of stay ahead of the game, right? And prevent this before it gets too high. So this is something that if you're interested, you can always talk to me about it as well.
Thank you, Dr. Udani. And I just want to point out that when you see your medical doctor, that does not mean you're automatically going to have these tests done. A naturopath, typically, I have found as a patient, orders way more different blood work tests customized on your specific concerns because they spend more time with you. A typical medical appointment, what would it be? 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes max. Going over your history, your symptoms, and what's happening with you, where a typical new patient exam with a naturopath would be an hour and follow-up visits a half an hour. So literally they have 10 times more time to spend with you to customize their testing, then get the right testing in order to make the best diagnosis and the best recommendations. So many doctors would not order your B vitamins or your zinc levels or your magnesium levels or your vitamin D levels, or your H1C or creatine. They would typically do, but they may not do some of these inflammatory markers like homocysteine. So this is why it's so important to have a naturopath on your team. So let's go through some of the natural support strategies. We talk about the natural anti-inflammatory diet. Consider the ketosis. This doesn't mean forever. Many people need to cycle it, but overall, it's reducing sugar, reduce inflammation. Look at our intermittent fasting wellness talks and our ways to reduce stress and improve your overall sleep. We know we got to move. We know we have to move. And that will help with aging. It'll help get your muscles strong, your bones strong, and help us with our overall stress management. And of course, it helps with weight management as well. As Dr. Udani pointed out, you need good gut health in order to age gracefully. So this is something that is, not just about going to the bathroom frequently, but making sure that we don't have signs of infection, don't have signs of challenges with our gut flora, because the gut can really be the key to all other aspects of health and other areas of potential disease. We want to open up those detox pathways, and definitely don't do this on your own. You have high risk of side effects and reactions. Many detox products are not regulated, so highly recommend having a coach along doing a detox. I think detoxes can be wonderful, especially annually or as the seasons change. However, do it in a supportive way. We do want to reduce those toxins and the EMF challenge. So just time away from your phone, time away from your Fitbit or your fancy watch, making sure you don't have the phone by your bed when you're sleeping, or your, fancy phone on your watch. So your fancy watch, while you're sleeping to monitor your sleep habits. Often that actually prevents you from getting a good night's sleep because of these EMFs. So not something we want to do regularly. We want to make sure that we're not powering up all of our devices near our head. So clearly it would be best in a separate room. And definitely not using a phone. I literally had a patient using the phone under their pillow to wake them up. Not a good idea, because then you have those EMFs going through your brain nonstop. So looking towards some of our other wellness talks on these topics in order to get the best results. Dr. Udani talked about improving your vitamin D, your essential oils. Glutathione is something that we have in our own fridge, but you can get glutathione, which is amazing for your overall body to help with energy. A great support system. So you want to look, you can get it from natural foods. Look at this: asparagus, broccoli, avocado, spinach, tomatoes, garlic, Brussels sprouts, tomatoes, cucumbers, cabbage, walnut, and almonds. Oh my goodness. So pick three. Pick three and add more of those each week. Pick three, so that you can say, okay, that's going to be my go-to. That's in my fridge on a regular basis. If you look at glutathione, it helps your liver. It helps your how growth of new cells. It helps with oxidative stress. It reduces your risk of chronic disease. So looking at how you can get that naturally from food would be best, and then talking to a naturopath about whether you need a supplement or not. There are so many herbs that help with anti-inflammation. We sell curcumin turmeric at the office, but reverserol, quercetin. We have natural anti-inflammatories at the office. So please, joint formulas at the office. Talk to the naturopath. Look at the supplements that we have that are high end. Um, and we just want to be careful with the quality and of whatever we're going to put in our bodies. That's why we talk about organic foods, but also high quality supplements, so that you're not wasting your money or have the risk of putting something that's harmful in our bodies unintentionally. So we know these are all great information, but of course we need to take care of that nervous system. It controls all function. That brain is so powerful that it sends messages, like you see those arrows coming out to all the different organs in your body. So we got to take care of the power source, the computer of the body, and how it sends messages out to every single organ, so that you can digest those great foods, you can digest those great supplements, you can manage stress better. Dr. Udani orders all of those amazing tests. That's why, as a chiropractor, where I focus on the spine and the nervous system, removing subluxations, I work with a naturopath because they can order the other tests. As a team, we are so much stronger than as individuals. And I recommend everybody have a healthcare team. You have your medical doctor, you have your dentist, you have a optometrist, but you add your naturopath and your chiropractor, along with your great exercise and nutrition routines. So we want to be on your team. We offer complimentary consultations, so you can learn more about what we do and how we would love to help you, and make sure we have a great plan. And then we can follow up with a thorough examination after that, and give you the best recommendations. So we love helping you. We look forward to meeting your friends and family as well. Share this information worldwide. If you need a referral for a doctor that doesn't live in Brampton, let us know as well, and we'd be happy to help. So stay tuned with us. We're so grateful to be with you. And our mission is to help you be your best. Our mission is to help people worldwide. We love it. It is free, it's from our hearts. We look forward to being with you soon. And the one way that you can help us get this information out to others is to do a review. So help us with a review. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to being again with you again soon. Thank you so much, Dr. Udani. Again, I'm just so grateful for you on our team.
Thank you so much, Dr. Justine. I'm grateful to be on this team too. Have an amazing night, everybody. Take care.